My mom says I ruined my brother's life because I opened my mouth in front of 100 strangers. But if you knew what they did to me when I was 12, you'd understand why I couldn't stay silent anymore. I didn't plan revenge, but I think I might have started something none of us can undo. My name is Isaac. I'm 30 now, but some memories don't just fade. They age. They ferment. They get stronger, sharper, like the past is sharpening its teeth every time I think I've moved on. People assume I don't talk about my childhood because I've let it go. That couldn't be further from the truth. I don't talk about it because the moment I do, I'm 12 again, standing barefoot on hot concrete, gas fumes burning my nose, clutching a candy bar I couldn't pay for, and watching the red tail lights of my parents' SUV disappear down the road. It was August. School was about to start. We were on one of those forced, family bonding road trips my mom loved to stage, the kind where everyone pretended my dad's temper was leadership and my older brother Caleb was some kind of prodigy instead of just a loudmouthed golden boy. Meanwhile, I was the quiet kid. Too sensitive, too quiet, too inconvenient. That day, I spilled a Sprite in the back seat. Caleb, 16 and already talented at weaseling out of everything, smirked and said, "He did it on purpose, Dad." My father's face twisted like I'd committed a crime. He jerked the wheel, pulled into a gas station, and before I could even apologize, he barked, "You think you're grown? Figure out your own way home." I laughed. I honestly thought it was another one of his awful jokes. Then the back of the SUV slammed shut. No hesitation. No second look. They just drove. I ran for maybe 20 feet, shouting, my voice cracking like I was choking on the panic. Engines drowned me out. Tires screeched. They were gone. A gas station clerk leaned out the door, cigarette hanging from his mouth, staring at me like I was a stray dog someone dumped. No curiosity. No concern. Just annoyance. That night, I curled up behind a dumpster because I didn't know where else to go. Every time a car rolled in, my heart jumped, thinking maybe, just maybe, they'd come back. Spoiler, they didn't. 80 miles from home. No wallet. No phone. No one to call. When I asked the clerk for help, he muttered, "Ain't a babysitter, kid," and locked the door. You'd think I cried. I didn't. Something inside me turned to ice that night. The part of me that believed family meant safety died behind that gas station. Morning came. I found a payphone and used the only number I knew by heart that wasn't my parents', my English teacher, Mrs. Valencia. She didn't ask questions. She just came. She gave me food, drove me back, and when I said, "I think they forgot me," her hands tightened on the wheel. She didn't believe a word of it, but she didn't push. She just said, "If you ever need me, you call." And then I walked into my house. No one looked surprised. No one ran to me. No one asked if I was okay. Mom glanced up and said, "Took you long enough." Caleb didn't even look away from his game. Should have walked faster. Dad stared at his newspaper like I didn't exist. The next morning, he nodded at me at breakfast like everything was fine. That was the day I stopped trying to be part of that family. I finished school like a ghost, quiet, invisible, surviving by staying small. The day I turned 18, I moved out, worked 3 jobs, went to community college, transferred across the country, changed my number, left no forwarding address, and never looked back. And for the first time in my life, I could breathe. I became a software engineer. I built a life where no one told me to man up, like that phrase magically fixed trauma. I made real friends. I adopted a rescue dog, Max, nervous little mutt who flinches at yelling and sleeps curled up against my leg like the world can't hurt him there. Yeah, we understand each other. 10 years. No contact. Peace. Until last week. A plain envelope showed up in my mailbox. No return address. But the handwriting, dramatic loops, big sweeping letters, was unmistakably my mother's. My stomach dropped. Inside wasn't hate mail. It wasn't guilt or blame. It was worse. A wedding invitation. Caleb's. Gold lettering. Fancy cardstock. A whole production. And tucked inside was a handwritten note. "Isaac, we know things have been distant. But Caleb is getting married and it would mean a lot to the family if you came. He asked us to reach out personally. We'd love to reconnect. Love, Mom and Dad. Love, like they hadn't ditched me on a highway at 12 years old. Like they hadn't pretended I never existed. Like Caleb wasn't the sun and I was a shadow." I stared at that note so long the edges wrinkled in my hand. I almost threw it away. Almost. But then I flipped the invitation over. Fancy venue. Dress code. Shuttle service. QR code RSVP. Like I was just another distant cousin they were obligated to invite. Then I saw the bride's name. Emily R. Kensington. Of course. The Kensingtons, old money, old gossip, pillars of the community. I remembered Emily. Perfect hair. Perfect manners. Perfect life. The kind of girl who never had to raise her voice to be heard. And there in one of her engagement pictures online was a link to their wedding website. Oh, I clicked it. Welcome to Caleb and Emily's big day. Countdown, 3 weeks. Vineyard venue. String quartet. Registries at 3 designer stores. Their initials printed on cocktail napkins. And then I saw it. The love story. Written by Caleb himself, dripping with fake sincerity. I always believed in fate. But nothing prepared me for Emily. She saw more than the guy I used to be. The guy he used to be? I remembered that guy. The bully in pressed khakis. The liar who smiled for the cameras. The kid who shoved me into a pond at my own birthday party and told everyone I slipped. I wasn't going to the wedding. Not until I saw those words. More than the guy I used to be. That's when something cold and steady settled in my chest. Not anger. Not grief. Clarity. If they wanted to pretend the past never happened, fine. I could play that game. And I could play it better. I didn't RSVP. Too predictable. Instead, I called a friend from college, Jenny, who works in high-end logistics. She sent me a custom-tailored midnight blue suit, the kind that makes you look like you own the room the second you walk in. I booked a room at the guest hotel under a slightly different name. Paid in full. I didn't want them to know I was coming. If they wanted to erase the past, I was going to remind them, quietly, politely, beautifully, that ghosts don't always stay gone. Sometimes, ghosts walk right through the front door wearing a three-piece suit and a smile. And I was just getting started. 2 weeks before the wedding, I sent one email, short, polite, almost painfully civil, to the RSVP address listed on the invitation. It was addressed to Emily. Looking forward to the celebration. Please don't mention I'm attending. I'd like to surprise the happy couple. Isaac. No response. But the tracking icon turned from unread to read. That was enough. The week before the wedding, I cleared everything. Put work on hold. Booked Max with a sitter who didn't play music above a whisper. I packed light, my suit, polished shoes, a silk tie, and one more thing. A small, worn photograph of me at 12 years old. Standing outside that gas station. Backpack on. Eyes blank. Shoulders slumped like I was already apologizing to the world for existing. Mrs. Valencia took that photo the morning she picked me up. Years later, she mailed it to me with a note. You survived. I still don't know why she did it. But I tucked that photo into my luggage. Something told me it needed to come with me. The rehearsal dinner. The vineyard looked like something ripped out of a glossy wedding magazine. Rolling hills, polished wood beams, fairy lights draped through archways like warm constellations. Perfect sky, perfect temperature, perfect people. The kind of place that screams exclusive without ever saying a word. I didn't walk in with fanfare. I stood at the edge of the outdoor terrace, sunglasses on, jacket folded over my arm, blending into the scenery. And that's when I saw her. Mom. She looked smaller. Thinner. Like the years had quietly hollowed her out from the inside, but she was still trying to look pretty for the pictures. Her laugh, that high fragile laugh, floated out over the crowd. You could hear the strain in it, even if no one else noticed. Dad stood next to her, still trying to look powerful in his blazer, probably still carrying the same stupid money clip he used to flick open like a magic trick. His face had grown puffy, like life finally started punching back. They were schmoozing with Emily's parents, smiling, shaking hands, praising their golden son. I didn't approach. Not yet. Then I saw Caleb. Perfect tuxedo. Perfect posture. Perfect smile. Our eyes met. His face slipped, just for a second. Not enough for anyone else to notice. But I saw it. A tiny, sharp flash of panic. A flicker of what the hell is he doing here? Then he raised his glass at me, turned away, and pretended I didn't exist. So he hadn't told them I was coming. Interesting. I slipped out before the toast and walked back to the hotel. My heart wasn't racing from nerves, it was racing from purpose. I had shown up. I had been seen. And that was step one. The wedding day. The morning of the wedding arrived wrapped in fog and quiet. I stood at the hotel window, watching mist roll across the vineyard like the sky was keeping secrets. I hardly slept, not because I was anxious, but because my brain played old memories like a silent movie. The night behind the dumpster. The payphone. The quiet drive home. The silence in the kitchen the next morning. I ironed my shirt with slow, steady movements. Every wrinkle pressed out felt symbolic, like I was smoothing over parts of myself that had been twisted for years. Then I took the photo, creased, faded, and tucked it into my breast pocket behind a silk handkerchief. If I was going to show up, I was bringing all of me. Even the version they threw away. Arrival. The shuttle was filled with chatter and perfume and strangers. College friends. Neighbors. People who'd known Caleb as a hero, a leader, a prince. No one recognized me. I preferred it. When the shuttle doors opened, the venue looked like a fantasy. White chairs lined up like dominoes across the lawn. A floral arch bursting with ivory roses. Classical music drifting through speakers. Waiters serving Prosecco with perfect smiles. I stayed in the back. My parents sat in the front row, performing happiness like it was a paying job. Dad laughed too loudly. Mom held a bouquet of lilies that didn't match her at all. Caleb stood near the arch, shaking hands, basking in attention. Emily hadn't appeared yet. That's when a woman approached, silver hair, navy dress, posture like royalty. She studied me for a moment, then smiled. You must be Isaac. I blinked. I am. I'm Evelyn Kensington, she said, offering her hand. Emily's mother. Of course. The Kensington matriarch. I shook her hand. Firm, steady. She was polite, but her eyes held curiosity, maybe assessment. Caleb mentioned you might be here, she said gently. He told us there had been some distance, but he hoped this could be a step toward healing. Healing. The word hit like stale candy, sweet on the outside, rotten underneath. He's an optimist, I answered. Her smile faltered just slightly. Well, welcome. And if you need anything, please let us know. She walked away, heels sinking slightly into the soft grass. So Caleb had prepared them. Just not my parents. Interesting. The ceremony. Emily stepped out like she was made of sunlight, white gown, glowing skin, soft veil. The crowd held its breath. Caleb looked at her like he was accepting an award. Which, honestly, he probably was. The ceremony was short. Polished. Pretty. Vows. Rings. Kiss. Applause. And just like that, they were married. The reception. The reception hall was glass-walled and enormous, like a crystal box dropped in the middle of the vineyard. Chandeliers glittered overhead. Centerpieces bloomed with orchids and floating candles. Soft music hummed through hidden speakers. Guests found their seats, following printed calligraphy cards. Except, mine didn't exist. No card. No seat. Not even a pity chair in the corner. So I walked to the table where my parents sat. Family section. One empty chair. I lingered. Mom looked up, wine glass in hand. "Oh," she said casually. "You made it." Apparently. Dad didn't speak. Just looked at me, then looked away, like I was a TV channel he didn't remember subscribing to. "I didn't see a seat card for me," I said. Mom shrugged. "Must be a mix-up. Maybe you're at another table. We didn't handle the seating." "Right. Sure you didn't." I scanned the room. Almost everyone was seated. And then, Caleb saw me. His face froze. He excused himself. Walked directly toward me. "Hey," he said quietly. "Glad you could make it." "No thanks to you." He exhaled. "I didn't think you'd actually come. You invited me." "I asked Mom and Dad to invite you," he corrected. "Not the same thing." My jaw tightened. "I figured you'd get the invite, toss it, move on. Like always." I stared at him, tan, charming, confident, like life had handed him every comfort on a silver platter. "I came," I said quietly, "because I wanted to see if you remembered." He frowned. "Remember what?" I didn't speak. I pulled the photo from my pocket and held it up. His eyes flicked to it. Then to me. Then away. His voice went soft. "Isaac, that was years ago." "Yes. And you never told them to turn back. You never checked if I survived getting home." He glanced around like someone might hear. "It was one bad night," he hissed. "You were dramatic even back then. I thought you were over it." Over it. Something inside me went silent. Still. Sharp. "I'm not here to ruin your wedding," I said evenly. "Relax." He let out a small, relieved laugh. "Good." I slipped the photo back into my pocket. "But I'm staying until the speeches." This time, his face didn't hide anything. Worry. Confusion. Fear. He looked at me like he suddenly wasn't sure who I was anymore, or what I was capable of. Good. Because for the first time in our lives, I wasn't the quiet one in the back. I was the ghost at the table. And he didn't know what happened next, because the best revenge doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be violent. If you're patient enough and quiet enough, it can be surgical. And that night, in that glittering ballroom, with champagne glasses chiming and candlelight flickering across polished silverware, I had a scalpel. A toast. A single, precise incision they would never forget. The toast. The lights dimmed just slightly as the last dinner plates were gathered up. Guests leaned back in their chairs, warm with champagne and small talk. The jazz band in the corner played something soft, notes curling lazily through the air. Caleb and Emily sat at the head table, names glowing in gold script behind them, like a staged painting of perfection. A man in a powder blue suit tapped his glass. "Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a few words from those who know our bride and groom best." Soft applause. Polite. Predictable. Emily's father stood first, flawless posture, perfect pacing, that smooth voice people pay money to hear at fundraisers. He told stories about her childhood, her heart, the first time she spoke about this charming young man named Caleb. He joked that Caleb married up and everyone laughed, because that's what you do at weddings. You laugh. You clap. You pretend everything is beautiful. Then the best man took over. Classic best man material, college stories, mild roasting, talk about how lucky Caleb was and how Emily tamed him. A few, remember when, moments everyone chuckled at, nothing dangerous, nothing too real. Then the MC stepped back up, scanning his list. And finally, we have a special toast, from Isaac. The air shifted. Chairs shifted. My parents froze, wine glasses halfway to their mouths. Caleb's jaw clenched. Emily blinked, confused. I stood. Not fast. Not slow. Just steady. I walked to the mic, ignoring the whispers, the curious looks, the few polite smiles that didn't know what they were welcoming. I tapped the microphone once. "Good evening," I said. "I'm Isaac. Caleb's younger brother." You could feel the shock ripple through the room. A brother? He has a brother? Why haven't we ever heard of him? I could hear the questions without anyone speaking. I wasn't sure I was going to come tonight. Actually, I spent the last few weeks trying to decide if I should. Silence spread like a stain. Why? Because truth makes people uncomfortable. I haven't spoken to my family in 18 years. You could have heard a feather hit the floor. I got a wedding invitation out of nowhere. No message, no phone call, just a card asking me to be here. And a note that said, it would mean a lot to the family if you came. I reached into my jacket. Pulled out the photo. This is me at 12 years old. I held it up. Heads tilted. Eyes narrowed. A few people leaned forward. This was taken the morning after my parents left me at a gas station. 80 miles from home. All because I spilled a soda in the car. Gasps. Soft, sharp. An uncomfortable stir spread across the room. They drove away. They didn't come back. They didn't call. I slept behind a dumpster, and if my teacher hadn't picked me up the next day, I don't know how I would have gotten home. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't tremble. I just told the truth. I never got an apology. Not from my parents. And not from Caleb. And until a few weeks ago, I figured they were perfectly fine pretending I didn't exist. I looked straight at my parents. Mom's face was white. Dad's eyes were wet and angry at me, not at himself. "Now, I'm not here to ruin anything," I said. "Emily, you seem kind. Your family has been nothing but gracious. And Caleb," I let the moment stretch, "you've always been good at putting on a show." Something in his expression finally cracked. But weddings are supposed to be honest. And it wouldn't be honest to stand here and pretend we grew up in a family full of love and trust and second chances. Nobody moved. I wasn't invited here as a brother. I was invited as a prop. A photo opportunity. A box to check. I walked to the head table, slow, deliberate, and placed the photo in front of Caleb. So here's my gift. He stared at it like it might explode. A reminder of what family looks like when you decide someone is disposable. Then I turned, walked away from the mic, and kept going. No applause. No fake laughter. Just stunned, electric silence. My mother hissed my name. My father half stood, like he wanted to stop me. I didn't even look at them. I pushed open the side door and stepped into the crisp night air. And for the first time since I was 12, I felt tall. Aftermath. The walk back to my car was quiet except for gravel crunching under my shoes. Every step felt lighter. Cleaner. Like I'd finally let the weight I'd been carrying for 2 decades slip right off my shoulders. The vineyard looked almost unreal, moonlight on the vines, cool air brushing my face, music faint behind the glass walls. I wasn't angry. I wasn't shaking. Just free. But freedom is strange. It leaves space. Silence. My phone buzzed when I got back to the hotel. A voicemail from an unknown number. I hit play. Isaac, it's Emily. Her voice was soft. Controlled. But trembling. I don't know what I expected tonight, but it wasn't that. I wish someone had told me. I'm not mad. You deserve to say what you said. And, I'm sorry. She hung up. That was the first apology I'd heard in 18 years. And it wasn't even from my family. The exit. Before sunrise, I emailed the front desk, asked them to cancel the rest of my reservation and send me the bill. No breakfast. No lingering looks. No waiting for my parents or Caleb to come up with excuses or speeches. They could spin it however they wanted. Miscommunication. Misunderstanding. Isaac is sensitive. We tried our best. I didn't care. I knew one thing. The photo was still sitting on the head table when I walked out. Right in front of Caleb. Right where everyone could see it. A tiny, worn snapshot of a forgotten boy. Finally seen. And I drove away before the sun even came up. I kept the suit. Tossed the tie. And I went home. Not to a mansion or a guest room or a polished family estate, to my small apartment, where a dog with 2 big ears and a nervous heart jumped into my arms like I'd been gone for years. Max barked, circled, leaned against my legs like he was anchoring me to solid ground. And in that tiny, quiet apartment, something unexpected happened. People started finding me. The first message. My cousin Hannah, someone I hadn't heard from in nearly 2 decades, sent me a message on LinkedIn. Of all places. I heard about the wedding. I didn't realize the story was real. I'm so sorry I never asked what happened to you. She admitted she always thought it was strange how my parents stopped mentioning me, but every time she asked, someone would change the subject. Eventually, she assumed I'd chosen to disappear. We talked. Not deeply, not yet, but enough for the ice to crack. At the end she asked, could we catch up in person sometime? I didn't say yes. But I didn't say no. Then Mrs. Valencia. A new email arrived the next morning. A familiar name. Mrs. Valencia. I always wondered where life took you. I still have that photo. I'm proud of who you became, Isaac. I hadn't cried in years. But that night, I did. Not a dramatic breakdown. No shaking fists or screaming into pillows. Just quiet tears, like a pressure valve finally opened after 2 decades of holding itself together with spit and stubbornness. Life got lighter. I started waking up early again. Sleeping through the night. My mind felt clearer, like someone had finally rinsed the bitterness out of my bones. Work felt easier. My code cleaner. I took Max on longer walks. Started writing again, not to sell anything, just to let the storm out in words instead of nightmares. And then came the email that shifted everything. The nonprofit. A woman from a nonprofit for estranged adults reached out. Private retreats for people abandoned or erased by their families. She'd heard about the wedding speech from someone who worked the event. It was the quietest, most powerful thing I've ever witnessed. Would you consider speaking at one of our retreats? I said yes. 1 retreat turned into 2. Then 4. Then a panel at a university symposium on trauma recovery and family estrangement. I didn't wear the suit for those. No need to impress anyone. But I always carried the photo. And every time I told the story, someone in the audience whispered. That happened to me too. Every hand I shook. Every hug from someone who thought they were alone. Every survivor who finally felt seen. That's when I realized. I wasn't taking revenge. I was taking power. When Emily wrote back. Then came the message I didn't expect. Emily. Not short. Not polite. Raw. Isaac, I need the truth. Did your parents really leave you at that gas station? I asked Caleb. He didn't deny it. He just said, it's complicated. But you didn't sound complicated. You sounded sure. Please tell me everything. She could have ignored me. Could have blamed me. Could have chosen the easy path and buried the story like the rest of them. Instead, she asked for truth. So I gave it to her. No dramatics. Just the timeline. The facts. The gas station. The silence. The erasure. The way my name disappeared from holiday cards and family stories like I'd never existed. I ended the email with, you don't have to believe me. But you asked for honesty. That's all I have to offer. Her reply. I believe you. And I need time. They never told me about you. Caleb said he was an only child until we got engaged. If they erased you, what else have they rewritten? Then one more line. Would you meet me for coffee? Just us. I let her choose the place. The time. The boundary. We met at a quiet cafe 2 towns over. She wasn't the polished woman from the engagement photos. No makeup. No jewelry. Hoodie. Jeans. Eyes swollen from crying or lack of sleep, maybe both. She sat down, wrapped her hands around a mug, and asked, "What else did they do?" So I told her. Not the small humiliations. Not every cruel joke or ignored birthday. Just the big cuts. How my dad called me useless at 15. How my mom forgot I existed unless she needed someone to blame. How Caleb once told people I ran away for attention when they asked why no one saw me anymore. Emily never interrupted. She didn't defend them. Didn't twist my words. Just listened. Then she said something that stopped the air in my lungs. "At the wedding? Caleb called you a ghost. He said you vanished. Said you always had a flair for the dramatic." A ghost. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it fit so perfectly. "They didn't lose a son," I said quietly. "They buried one." Emily exhaled, a trembling, broken sound. "You know what scares me," she whispered, leaning forward. "If we have kids one day, and one of them isn't perfect enough. What if they treat our child like they treated you?" And there it was. The crack in the foundation. The doubt that would spread. Emily left soon after. Told me she was grateful. Told me she wasn't ready to confront him yet. But she would be in touch. Then came the letter. 3 days later, I opened my mailbox and found an envelope with no return address. This time, the handwriting was different. Not loopy. Not dramatic. Sharp. Rigid. My father's. Inside. "Isaac, I don't know what you think you're doing. This isn't helping anyone. You're bringing shame on the family. Let it go. If you keep stirring things up, there will be consequences. We gave you a second chance to be included. Don't make us regret it. Dad ***. No apology. No denial. Just threat. Arrogant. Entitled. Exactly who he always was." I placed the letter next to the photo of 12-year-old me, 2 artifacts from the same man. And I smiled. Because now I had what I never had before. Proof. His words, in his handwriting, threatening me for telling the truth. I scanned the letter. Saved it to a secure, encrypted folder. Backed it up to 2 cloud drives. Then I picked up my phone. And dialed a number I never thought I'd call. A journalist I'd met at a trauma panel. Someone who once said, "If you ever want to tell your story publicly, really tell it, I'll help you do it right." She answered on the first ring. "Isaac, I'm ready," I said. "But I'm not just talking. I'm showing documents. Emails. Letters. I'm going all in." She was quiet for a beat. Then, "How far are you willing to go?" I looked down at the letter. The photo. The name etched in gold on the wedding invitation that pretended I didn't exist. All the way, I said that it went live on a Tuesday morning. No teasers. No dramatic trailer. No countdown clock. Just a story posted at 8:07 a.m. By noon, it had already spread like wildfire. Claire Russo, the journalist I chose, didn't sensationalize anything. She wasn't chasing clicks or scandal. She did what no one in my family had ever done. She told the truth. She verified every detail. She tracked down records. Interviewed witnesses. Pulled documents. She spoke to Mrs. Valencia, who confirmed picking me up from that gas station. She spoke to an old landlord, who remembered me working 3 jobs to pay rent on time, every time, without help from anyone. She printed the photo of 12-year-old me, standing beside a dumpster with my torn backpack and cracked sneakers, eyes blank and exhausted. She included quotes from my wedding toast. And she included my father's letter, blurred slightly, but still unmistakable. Clear enough for anyone with half a brain to understand the threat hidden beneath the polite tone. Emily gave her permission to mention our conversation. No dramatics. No exaggeration. Just reality. And that was what made the article explode. Because pain doesn't need shouting to be heard. Sometimes all it needs is honesty. The world responds. Comments poured in by the thousands. People shared their own stories. Being abandoned. Cut off. Erased. Gaslit by people who claimed to love them. Some thanked me for speaking when they never could. Others said the quietness of my speech at the wedding made it even louder. Some readers guessed the vineyard, though I never confirmed. But the most important messages weren't public. They were private. From people who had lived through the same nightmare and never told a soul until that day. I answered everyone I could. And then came the message that changed everything. Mark Kensington. Emily's older brother. His message was short. "I always thought Caleb was fake. Too polished. Too perfect. Now I know why. I'm sorry for what they did. My parents are furious, not at you, at him. They feel deceived. Used. They're meeting with Emily today. I thought you'd want to know." That was it. No excuses. No pity. Just facts. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because 2 days later, I got an email from Emily herself. Emily breaks. "Isaac, I read the article. I saw the photo. I showed Caleb. He didn't deny it. He said you made it sound worse than it was. But you didn't. You didn't even share everything you told me. And that's how I knew you were telling the truth. He asked me to choose. So I did. I'm staying with my parents now. We're annulling the marriage. Thank you for not letting me step into that life blind. Emily." I read it 3 times. Then I closed my laptop and just sat there, quiet, breathing, letting the moment settle. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel victory. I felt something softer. Something like closure. Because the night they left me at that gas station, I stood in the parking lot with a candy bar I didn't even steal, staring down an empty highway, telling myself, they have to come back. They have to. But they didn't. And that boy, tired, abandoned, terrified, never got justice. Until now. Because finally, they lost something they didn't control. The voicemail. 3 days after the article dropped, my phone lit up with an unknown number. I didn't answer. I let it go to voicemail. And then I listened. My mother's voice came first, sharp, trembling, not with remorse but with rage. "Isaac, how dare you? We invited you. We were civil. And you humiliated us." Her voice cracked with indignation, not guilt. "You've ruined Caleb's life. Emily's parents are threatening lawyers. Gifts will need to be returned. Deposits lost. Our reputation, do you understand what you've done?" Yes. I understood perfectly. Then my father's voice took over. Not angry. Worse. Cold. Familiar. "You always were too soft. I should have known you'd grow into a man who uses feelings as weapons. Congratulations. You've destroyed your family. Don't ever call us again." Click. End of message. I stared at the wall, waiting to feel something sharp or painful. But I didn't. Because I hadn't destroyed my family. They destroyed the version of me that still needed them. That was their loss. Not mine. The ending. I opened a drawer, pulled out the photo of the boy at the gas station, small, lost, unsure. I didn't feel pity. I felt pride. Because that boy survived long enough to become me. I smiled at him. Then I put the photo away, not to forget, not to bury, but because for the first time in my life, the past wasn't pulling me backward. I wasn't a ghost anymore. I had told my story. And I had finished writing the ending myself. The fallout didn't crash like a storm. It drifted in, piece by piece, like ash settling after a fire. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just unavoidable. Whispers. It started with quiet messages from people I hadn't spoken to since high school, names I barely remembered, suddenly landing in my inbox like ghosts with Wi-Fi. I had no idea. "I thought you transferred schools. Your parents told everyone you were difficult." That last one came up a lot. Difficult. The word adults use when they don't want to say punished, ignored, or abandoned. Then the social media cleanup. My parents, who had lived online for years, posting photos of holidays, charity events, Caleb's milestone achievements, went silent. Completely silent. Certain posts vanished. Family portraits. Vacation snapshots. The proud parents of Caleb and Emily Facebook cover photo. Gone. And the biggest casualty? Caleb's wedding album. Deleted. Scrubbed. Erased like it never happened. No caption. No explanation. No taking time offline message. Just digital smoke. Someone later told me that Emily's parents demanded it. Every vendor refunded. Every gift returned. Every photo taken down. Control restored. Damage minimized. Shame contained. And Caleb? He updated his LinkedIn profile. Taking a leave of absence for personal matters. One sentence. No fanfare. His spotless life, business degree, perfect job, smiling headshots, now had one crack running straight through the center. And the world loves a perfect image. It loves watching one break even more. Emily. A few weeks later, she messaged again. "I'm rebuilding. It's messy, but it's mine. Thank you again. I hope you're doing okay." I didn't need anything more from her. She had looked truth in the face and refused to swallow the lie. That made her stronger than anyone in my bloodline. My life after. The nonprofit asked me to join permanently, help plan retreats, organize support groups, speak at events. I said yes. I started writing. Not just essays or short posts. A book. Ghost Son. What happens when they pretend you never existed? I wasn't writing it to hurt them. I was writing it for every kid who learned to pack quiet bags and walk on eggshells until their feet turned numb. For every adult who wonders if breaking away makes them ungrateful, disloyal, dramatic. For everyone who survived a family that only loved the version of them that stayed silent. The letter. One afternoon, a real letter arrived, paper, ink, envelope. Not my parents. Not Caleb. Mrs. Valencia. Her handwriting hadn't changed. "Dear Isaac, I clipped out your article and read it twice. Then I pinned it on my classroom wall, above the drawer where I keep extra snacks. For students who never bring lunch. I tell them about you sometimes. Not your name, just your story. That's sometimes kindness. Isn't just helping someone up. Sometimes it's remembering someone. When everyone else forgets. I'm so proud of you. Love, Mrs. V." This time, I didn't just tear up. I cried, real, full tears, the kind that leave your chest hollow and light at the same time, like something heavy finally found the exit. Because I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living. The final answer. People still ask. How did it feel to stand up there and tell the truth? To expose them in front of their perfect world? I never say revenge. I never say satisfaction. I just say, it felt like daylight. Warm, bright, real. Because the best revenge isn't watching them collapse. It's standing tall while they're still hunched over the shadows, trying to edit the past into something pretty. And I walked away from all of it. Not as a ghost. Not as an afterthought. But as someone who finally wrote his own story. And didn't look back.